Welcome to the Brave Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Lynn, founder of Sistership Circle and author of Open Your Heart and The Art of Leading Circle. I'm the mother of 2 girls, an 8 on the Enneagram, aka the Challenger, happily married to my business partner, Brent, love connecting with nature, and have put in well over 10,000 hours circling with other women. On this podcast, we will explore how to embody the brave woman so that you can take action on your dreams and desires, unapologetically speak your truth, and live life on your own terms. Grab a seat and a cup of tea, and let's get started. Welcome back, sister, to our heroine's journey that we have been on, and we are about halfway through. This is a 12-week initiation into your brave, authentic, embodied, feminine leadership. And today we are talking about birthing yourself. We've identified the split of where we have been disconnected from the feminine. We have been in a deep dive surrender, and now we are coming into sacred union. We are birthing ourselves as this new integrated, embodied woman. And I want to start with my story, my journey. And this part of the journey, this sacred union within myself, was in around 2013, 2014. And it was in 2013 that I went into the full surrender, let go of everything, let go of my business, and went deep into this healing journey. And during that time, asked myself the question, who am I without any of these roles, without a business, without any identity? Am I worthy simply as I am? And I would say that I really swung all the way from the masculine of where I was raised and typically felt comfortable in to the feminine, into the mystery, full surrender, into the darkness, could barely see one day ahead of myself. And it was in that complete immersion in the feminine that I was able to release and let go of all this conditioning. And then from that place of the healing and the surrender and really doing the deep excavation of my soul, I was then able to come back into center. And that is what I mean by the sacred union and the rebirthing of yourself, is in this embodied, integrated place where you have not discounted or discarded your masculine qualities, but you've embraced them. And as well, you've embraced and brought forth the feminine qualities. One is not better than the other. They are both equally important. They are both parts of you. They're parts of this universe that we live in, part of this life. And it's not about favoring one over the other. It's not about making one wrong. It's truly about the integration. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like as we move forward in this conversation. But what I want to talk about is this, the union of the masculine and feminine in the birthing of yourself. And then from that place, we can go into, okay, what does this actually look like? And how do I reconcile my masculine and feminine? So there's, from kind of a elements perspective, and these universal themes of the masculine and feminine. We can look at the union or the reunion of solar and lunar. Solar being the sun, being father, being the masculine, and lunar being water, the feminine, mama ocean. And there is actually a consciousness to these. And we could say from an elemental perspective, it is solar as fire. Think about our sun. And lunar as water. And these are two different consciousness. And we can actually explore all the 5 elements as we move into the rebirthing of ourselves. But these two powerful elements in their union is coming into the birthing of you. So if we actually go back into the womb, you were surrounded by water. And then there was the spark and your heartbeat and the fire that started to come alive, right? And that started to then have you develop as a fetus, as a baby. And that these two elements are really the catalyst of your birth. That fire of your soul, that fire of the action of what am I here to do? Many of us have been disconnected from that. We've also been very disconnected from the water in the womb space, in the darkness, the dream state, the quality of that, what it's like to be in the waters. And what we can also see is the 2 parts of the brain, the masculine and feminine parts of the brain, which is the cerebrum. And we can say that this is more of that fire, solar, masculine, frontal cortex, rational, reasoning, thinking. And then the cerebellum is in the back of the brain, which is the more feminine, dream time, intuitive part of the brain. This is the unconscious part of the brain. And we don't really talk about this difference between the 2 parts of the brain, the masculine and feminine. We always look at like the right and the left, right? But it's these 2 parts really being honored and recognized. And our culture has put so much emphasis on the cerebrum, on the thinking, rationalizing, logic, the science. And we're not really honoring the cerebellum, which in ancient cultures was very much the powerful brain of really paying attention to the dream state and being able to tap into that part of our the unconscious that allows us to really vision and to see beyond what is logical and real right here in the 3D world. So in these 2 elements coming together, you have the opportunity right now to rebirth yourself in the sacred union of the solar and the lunar, of the fire and the water within yourself. And so the question in birthing yourself is, what is my sacred fire? What is it that lights me up? What is it that I am most passionate about? What do I believe in? What's the thing, the spark that's going to get me up in the morning and feel like I am here to make a difference? I have a purpose. And allowing the watery dream time to give you the downloads, to intuitively guide you and support you in feeling like you're not alone. We talked about the God of hard work. What if we are synced up and in tune with and trusting in that higher power, in the divine? And that is that watery state. That is where these other, the downloads come in. We could call them downloads. It's a very common thing that we say. So in birthing yourself and having that flame flickering within you, giving you purpose, helping you to get out of bed and know that you were brought here to make a difference, to bring your gifts, that there is something worth living for. Who you are is worthy, simply because you were born. The sacred union in birthing yourself as the expression of the masculine and feminine, as the expression of fire and water, of solar and lunar. I mean, come on, how powerful is that to feel that you are these elements incarnated for a purpose on this planet, right here, right now. So who I am is worthy. And I've got a vision of what I want to create. So who am I being? Who am I being? Feminine. And what actions am I taking? Masculine. What am I creating? What am I creating? Who am I being? What is my vision? And then from that place, it's starting to incorporate the 5 elements, all 5 of them. So we've got the earth. I am grounded and rooted on this earth plane in this body. The water, that intuitive, dreamy, tapped into the other dimension. The fire as that passion, that flicker of light, that flame that's burning within you. The air as the intellectual, the mental capacity, the way you can think. And then ether as source, as being sourced and connected with all that there is. So we have this union of the fire and the water, but there is also the wholeness of the 5 elements. And when we can sync up with that and connect with that inside and outside of ourselves, then we are truly in embodiment. The elements are what help us to get rooted in the body, in the embodiment. So we could call this balance, but here's the thing. The body is always trying to find its way back to balance. It's always trying to find the equilibrium. The body is just so brilliant at constantly looking at where it needs to compensate. But the thing is that if we are not fully in alignment, the body then might be depleting its own resources to keep bringing the body back into that equilibrium state. And so, can you consciously create that? Can you not have the body be compensating for you as you go unconscious, right? But can you listen to the signs? So I recently got my hormones tested because I was feeling a major swing and a complete crashing as I was approaching my period every month. And my naturopath who I went to, she has this very extraordinary, complicated, sophisticated system of looking at the whole endocrine system and how the nervous system plays with the brain, with all the different hormones, it's incredible. And what she said is, from just looking at all your blood work, it all looks fine, right? Because the body is making those adjustments and compensating. But if we actually dig down into it, you're more in sympathetic. I'm like, duh. Sympathetic is I'm more on, I'm more in the anxious state. And so what's happening is that the adrenals, she said, think of it as your sovereign queen, right? The adrenals as the queen. And your queen is always ready for war. I'm like, yeah, I would say I'm much more connected with my fire, right? And she said, so the queen is basically demanding your hormones of testosterone and estrogen to like produce more because we're going, team. But your thyroid is like, yeah, not so much, right? And she said, in your parasympathetic, which she calls more of the receptivity, the receiving, is a little bit cut off. So while the hormones and the rest of the system is, okay, queen, here we go, right? And they're compensating to make it all work. It would be so much better if I consciously learned how to receive more. And the practice that she told me that was so brilliant is, can you consciously receive through your five senses the pleasure of life all around you? Can you be conscious when you walk out the door of the smells? Can you be conscious of smelling a rose? Can you consciously be receiving the taste when you eat? And what other things can you start to add to just be in more of that receptive state? And the thing that really landed here that comes into this conversation is I realized that part of that is receiving the dream time guidance, intuitive hits, the downloads, and consciously creating more opportunity to be in the dream state. If I'm constantly on in sympathetic, and I'm constantly planning for war, and I'm constantly doing, and I'm not consciously creating more time for being, and to just be in a dreamy state. And I look at my girls and I can see how they just go off into la la land. And I'm like, that was me as a kid. Able to just lay in the grass for an hour and just daydreaming about the clouds as I look up at the clouds, Where's the space for more daydreaming? Am I consciously creating that space and to receive? Because I am so intuitive, and we all are. That's the thing, especially as women. All human beings are intuitive, but we've been taught to doubt it. We've been taught that it's not as powerful as using our logical, rational brain. So we have to consciously make this choice to tap into the five elements and not just be in the one that feels easiest, the one that is our strength. Fire is my strength. How am I consciously balancing that out versus my body trying to do it for me? So with the nervous system of our sympathetic and parasympathetic, for me to start accessing more of the parasympathetic is to create more dream time, more consciously choosing to receive and opening myself up to receive. And so then I can be in what we call the range of resilience. And so if you look at a graph and someone might, their nervous system gets spiked up to sympathetic, they get super anxious, and then they collapse and they go down into parasympathetic and then back up, and we become these big, huge peaks and valleys. The range of resilience is more staying in the middle, but we are, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic are constantly working. They're not a bad thing. This isn't, but it's not being stuck on all the time, not always being in that high arousal, anxious state, and not being in the falling asleep, depressed, collapse on the couch all the time either. Can I be in the range of resilience? And so can I activate the solar fire within myself so that I'm not in the mud of the parasympathetic? And can I also activate that watery, receptive, intuitive quality, the water? And we can use the elements to help us do this. Last year in Costa Rica, March, April, I was dying. It is so freaking hot. So hot. Unbearable hot. In fact, I'm not going to do it anymore. I am coming back to San Diego for a month because I'm just not going to put myself in that. I'm consciously choosing how I want to live. But what I recognize is if I am so hot, I can't be working so many hours in the day. I need to be in actual water. Am I getting into either a pool or the ocean or a river on a daily basis? Can I use the element of water to keep me in that range of resilience? Because if I'm super hot and I'm doing my normal things and working like I normally do, I am definitely in sympathetic, highly aroused, fiery state, and I'm going to burn out. It's just not sustainable. So whichever one yours is to start to cultivate that awareness. And this again is that sacred union. It is embracing both the fire, solar, masculine, and equally embracing the watery, lunar, feminine. And this is where our heart and mind meld. We come into this beautiful partnership where our heart and our mind are in alignment. We are on purpose while also taking care of ourselves. We are connected to truth and source, and also connected to our own sovereign free will. And this is such a powerful place to be. This is truly how we can step into being a brave woman on purpose, fully unleashed. So I want to segue into the next part because that's about you. That's about birthing yourself. But a huge part of this, of stepping into the new you and rebirthing yourself, is understanding that you are not alone. There are how many billion people on this planet right now? I think 7 or 8, a lot. You are not in a vacuum. You are not in an arid desert anymore. We're shifting out of that. You are in this beautiful, sacred planet teeming with life. And you are in a relationship with all of it. So in stepping into the next part of our journey, in really embodying the brave woman, you really want to look at that your work is not just inner work. Your work is in relationship with others. So it's relationship with the 5 elements, relationship with plants and animals, relationship with the cycles of the sun and the moon, and relationship with the people around you. And this is probably the most important part. We can only heal so much by ourselves. We have looked at our own sister wound, our own mother wound, our own witch wound, our own father wound. And now, when we step back into relationship with others, it's still going to get triggered. It's still going to come up. And so it's just an opportunity. Every single time that you get triggered, don't shoot the messenger, get the message. What is this person offering me as a gift right now? What do I still need to heal? And how do I have a conscious conversation with this person to bring love and affinity into all of my relationships? So there's a couple things here. The first piece is that the old way in which we relate to other people has primarily been through what's called the Cartman drama triangle. And we'll have a link for that in our show notes so that you could do a little bit more research. I think there's some great videos that explain it really well. But essentially, it says that that typically there's a persecutor, a victim, and a martyr. And in fact, we may always start on one part of the triangle, but we'll typically go around the whole thing. So maybe we start as victim, and then we move into martyr, and we try to save someone, and then we get mad and we go into perpetrator and back into victim. We could go round and round the triangle. So it is our job as brave women to just step out of the triangle, to start to notice when we're in it, and to start consciously having the awareness of looking at how I get out. So if we are in victim, there's a feeling of helplessness, of hopelessness, of something's happening to me. And instead we can come into creator, which is I am the creator of my reality. I get to create this. I do have power. And there's so much that can then spark that fire within us, right? Of where we go into collapse because we're in victim, and instead come back into our range of resilience by remembering that I am a powerful creator and I get to create reality as I want it to be and how I want it to look for me. When we step into martyr, it's typically compensating because we're forgetting that we're enough. And so we are trying to fix someone else as a projection of where we're needing to be fixed or helped ourselves. And so we can remind ourselves that I am worthy simply because I am. And I can trust that this person is on their journey and I don't actually need to give them the answers or fix them. And then in the persecutor, we're typically bullying and making someone wrong and thinking that we're better than others or blaming others, and back into self-responsibility. Back into I am responsible for my own reactions. So having the awareness of the drama triangle and starting to look at how it gets started, where you typically show up in the triangle first and where you go from there, and starting to notice that, well, my relationships might not be that healthy, but I have the power to change them and to make them shift. And we do this by setting boundaries. The next piece is to understand the 5 personality patterns by Stephen Kessler. And I did a podcast with him, brilliant work. There's some other systems out there. Luminous training goes into their version of the 5 personality patterns. I think they've added some of them. And so that will also be in the show notes. But this is your survival strategy to stay safe. You have a pattern of how you want to stay safe. So you want to start to recognize that. And in this rebirthing process and the embodiment of your brave leadership, that you start to catch yourself when you go into that reaction and where you're going into making yourself safe. And that is either the leaving pattern. It's like, peace out. It's not safe here at all. I'm going somewhere else. The merging pattern, where you lose sight of who you are and you try to merge into someone else. So learning how to individuate and come into sovereignty. The enduring pattern, where you just kind of shut down and it's kind of like a, you won't make me, and I'm just going to kind of go in my shell. The aggressive pattern, where you're ready to fight. And then the rigid pattern, where you get really stuck in the rules and the perfection of everything. And so these are developed through the 0 to 7 years old time frame, and they are strategies to keep you safe when you weren't safe as a child. So it's, again, bringing back into that conscious awareness, the presence of now, the presence in your body, and starting to notice these patterns that you run. It's not who you are. I'm not an aggressive person. I run the aggressive pattern. And so we get to see how that plays out with others, right? And this is where Circle is so powerful, because we get to see our dynamics with other people, in groups, in community, and we get to lean into these really uncomfortable conversations so that we can start creating some thriving relationships with people around us. And there's this saying that we see on Instagram, which is, your vibe attracts your tribe. And the work that we're doing here, yeah, you are elevating your vibration. You are stepping into this higher vibe, and you are going to start to attract people who are also resonating at that frequency like you. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to cut off those who you feel like are at a lower vibration. You just have to set energetic boundaries. And you could still love them. You could still have interactions, but you are very much in your sovereign power and not being hijacked and pulled into the drama triangle with them. And the thing is that a lot of these people come in to test you on your self-responsibility, your love and compassion for yourself and others, and also to really get the lesson and to see how much you have actually evolved. And then the next piece is finding your sacred partners, right? So if we are in the sacred union of the masculine and feminine within ourselves, and we're rebirthing ourselves as brave women who are living with our hearts wide open, and we are doing the work who are the people who we are calling in to be on this journey with as sacred partners? Now, this could be your lover and a life partner, but that's not just it. It's business partners and really powerful people who you're doing life with as friends, with projects. There doesn't have to just be one partner in your life. And so I'm always looking at like my leadership team, right? These are my sacred partners. And we are leaning in to do the work to keep raising our vibration and raising our consciousness together. And we know that we're going to trigger each other. We know that there's going to be little pieces where our sister wound comes up or our father wound comes up with each other, but we're going to work through that together. And that is the type of world that we want to create. That's resilience. That is a connected world, not divided, not separated, not judging one another. And yes, we might have a judgment because we're still going to judge ourselves, right? But it's a remembrance of, wait, that person's doing the best they can. Wait, this is happening for me, for my healing and for theirs. And I trust that this person can continue to see their own blind spots with me. I can share my truth. They could share their truth. We can work through this. We don't have to keep throwing everyone out, cutting everyone off just because we have a little hiccup. And this has been a big piece for me in my relationship. I've noticed since things have been really, really tough over this year with the stepping into our land project in Costa Rica, how quickly I jump to, oh, this just isn't working. Oh, I don't know if he's meant for me. I don't know if I'm meant to do this project. No, I'm just in another initiation. We chose this. We get to keep coming back to choosing it over and over and over again, choosing each other, choosing the project, choosing the path, choosing our vision over and over again. And it's almost like I have to cut out of my vocabulary, I'm questioning this relationship or I'm questioning this project. No, I'm committed. And there's going to be challenges. There's going to be bumps. There's going to be triggers all the time. What's my range of resilience? How am I responding instead of reacting? So in the third section, we are going to go into embodiment. We're going to go into the power of your voice, the power of your pleasure, and the power of your magic. And it's going to be fun because this is all the embodiment practices. This is really the exploration of what it looks like for us to be fully self-expressed as brave women in the world.
You just listened to this show. I'd love for you to leave the Brave Woman podcast an honest review. Reviews help podcasts like this one grow, making it more possible for me to devote my time, energy, and money to its production. If you take a screenshot of your review and email it to support@sistershipcircle.com, we'll send you one of our archetype activations as a thank you gift. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
Up next, it's time, sister, to feel the power of your voice, to speak your truth, to set boundaries, and have hard conversations. We're going to explore all of this in the next Brave Woman episode.